Welcome to the first proper section in the course. So in this section, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all of the theory behind the strategy. So I've broken this down into 8 lessons, and it's really, really important that you watch all of these and understand them. Because this is what the strategy is actually based on, and these 8 lessons are essentially explaining how the markets work, how they move, why they move, when they move, how far they move, and then we sort of piece together the strategy from there. So please, please, please don't skip this section. Take the time to understand all of this stuff. You particularly don't want to miss this video, stop losses versus no stop losses. This section is really sort of unlocking the markets essentially. So please take the time to watch it, and I'll see you in the first lesson. Right then, in this first lesson, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at round numbers. So what are round numbers? Well, it's probably easier to show you. So here we are on the Dow Jones, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my drawings actually on the chart, and you'll see some lines have now appeared. Now let's just get rid of this for a second. If we actually take a look down the right hand side here, you can see that this line is drawn at 36,000 exactly. The next one is at 37,000 exactly, 38,000, 39, 40, and so on. So these are round numbers. Now these are 1,000 point round numbers, okay? So each one of these lines is 1,000 points apart. So these are actually huge round numbers. Now what you can probably see already, as I just zoom out, is the reactions at them, okay? Price loves to turn around on a round number. It has lots and lots of interactions. They're all over the place. Now, round numbers are a type of support and resistance, a horizontal support and resistance. You can see the lines are running horizontally across the chart, but they're not real. They're not there. They don't exist. So why should price actually interact with them the way it does? Well, that's because of the way that our brains work. It's the way that we actually handle numbers. If you think about when you go in a shop and you buy something, or when you're trying to add up something, if you're trying to add up your monthly bills or what you spent or anything like that, you instantly round everything up. Nobody deals with fractions and stuff like that. You make the maths as easy as possible. And so when people are buying and selling in the markets, they do exactly the same thing. You know, people tend not to say, I'm going to buy, 34,271. Nobody says that. You would say, you'd round it. You'd say 34,250. You would go to the nearest quarter, the nearest half, the nearest 3/4, or the nearest whole round number. You make the maths as easy as possible for yourself. And for that reason, people buy and sell around these levels, and we get reactions. Now, this is a daily chart, and these levels are 1,000 points apart on the Dow Jones. And if I drop a time frame, what you'll see is some more levels will appear. So actually, if I go down to, let's go down to the 4 hour, and what you'll notice is instead of just having these solid lines, some more lines are going to appear in between them. And there we go. So if I just stretch this out a little, and what you can see now is if we take this zone, for example, we start at 38,000, then we have one at 38,250, 38,500, 38,750, and then 39. So these levels now are 250 points apart. So we've now quartered the 1,000 point zone. And again, look, if you just follow each line with your eye, you'll immediately see there are reactions all over the place at these levels that I've just sort of made up. I've just plucked them out of thin air, and yet the market is actually reacting to them. Now, this is an example on an index on US 30, but we can see exactly the same thing on Forex. If I go to, for example, pound US dollar, and what I'll actually do is, rather than drawing the levels manually, there's an indicator that you can use if I just turn this on. And this will put the lines on. Now this time they're not at 1,000, this time they're at 100 pips. And that's because Forex moves a lot less, okay? And I only actually have a half level now, I don't have quarters. So what you can see, in fact, we just sort of, I'll go away from the current price because the label is over it. But you can see this one is at 125, this one is at 126, and the dashed line in the middle is at 125.5, okay? So basically the solid lines are every 100 pips, and the dashed lines are every 50 pips, okay? And what you can, again, immediately see is just look at the amount of reactions just on these levels, just absolutely everywhere, okay? Price loves to just react at them It's all over the place. So these imaginary levels that we literally just, decided, okay, we're going to draw a line at 50 and 100 for no particular reason, they work really, really well, okay? So the market loves to respond at them. And this really is the power of round numbers. They work because that's just how the human mind actually handles numbers. So people are choosing to round up the numbers they're going to buy and sell at, and that's what causes these regular turning points at these levels in the market. So rather than using traditional support and resistance, where you kind of scrunch up your chart and zoom out, and then you start trying to look for highs and lows and drawing levels in, you draw the levels in advance. With round numbers, you actually do this, okay? You have all your levels drawn in advance, and then you sort of just wait for price to sort of just react at them like this, and this is literally what round number trading is. You don't have to look to the left to find where it's going to react. You draw the lines in advance and the market just reacts at them. So round numbers then are much more powerful and much easier to use than traditional support and resistance. So that's why I like to use them, and that's why I base my strategy on them. And it's kind of absolutely undeniable that they work. I mean, just look at any chart. If you actually take the time to draw some levels on, pick any instrument whatsoever, draw them at whole numbers, at round numbers, at halves and quarters, and you'll just see price constantly bounces from them. It's interacting with them all the time. So a little bit of homework for you there. Pick any instrument, pick your favorite instrument, just draw a couple of lines above and below at sort of 50 pips and 100 pips, and just watch how many times price has interacted with that level and watch how accurately it turns. So this is round numbers, and it's a very important part of this strategy. In this lesson then, we're going to talk about mean reversion. Now, mean reversion is a mathematical theory, and put simply, it basically means that the price of an instrument will often return to its average over time, okay? So it will return to its average price. Now, there's many different ways to sort of create or define that average, and I'm going to sort of point out a couple of them now. So the first one is because of the way an average works, okay? An average is essentially you choose a period or a sample size, and then you add it up together and divide it by itself. So if we were to count all of the candles within this period that it stays between these two lines, so between 127 and 128, there might be, I don't know, 100 candles in here. So you would add up the close price, or whichever price you chose, of 100 candles and then divide it by 100. Now that would give you the average price. And you're probably going to find, you can see that the market's moved completely sideways while it was in this zone, that the average price is roughly in the middle. Surprise, surprise. And what you can clearly see is that price spends its time constantly going back to the average price in the middle. So here is an example of mean reversion within a sort of an area on the chart. Now we can define this in another way. We can use something like a moving average. So what I'll do, just let me get rid of these lines, just let me turn this indicator off, and I'll just stick on a 200 period moving average. Now what a 200 period moving average does is add up the last close price of the last 200 candles and then divide it by 200, and it plots this blue line. And if I zoom out, what you're going to see is very clearly that price moves away from it, goes back to it, moves away from it, goes back to it, moves away, goes back, and so on. Look, moves away, and right now it's dropping back to it. So this is mean reversion. This is price going back to its average price all of the time. And sometimes, if I can zoom out a little bit, sometimes price will stay away from it for an extended period, but it will always, always, always go back. Okay, so I'll just scroll back through this chart, and again, you can do this yourselves. You can pick any instrument at all. Some instruments are very, very mean reverting, and what that means is they often don't move far from the average. They will stay really close to it like this, okay, and they will just hug it and they will just keep going back. And some instruments, if you look at Bitcoin, for example, will actually move really far from the moving average or from the average price and take a long time to go back to it. But ultimately, the theory is that everything, okay, will mean revert. It will just keep going back. So this is another really important part of this strategy, is that we actually use this to our advantage. If the market has moved or stretched in a certain direction, we know that eventually it is going to go back to the average price, and that can be very useful information. So this is the second key component of our strategy. This is mean reversion.